Welcome to the New Agent Survival Guide. One of the biggest mistakes new agents make happens before they ever sell a home, and it can cost them years.
My name is Gabriel.
And I'm Leanna.
And between us, we have a decade of experience in the real estate world. In this series, we're not only going to teach you how to survive your first 2 years of real estate, we're going to teach you how to thrive. So, Leanna, tell me what happened immediately after you passed your exam.
Yeah. So as soon as I passed my licensing exam, I just got contacted by multiple representatives of brokerages because they're out there, they're keeping track, and they're going to jump on those new agents because agents make brokerages money. That's just how it works. That's how the system is set up. And so they're after it. They're going to come to you and they're going to say, we've got these great programs. We've got this great training. We've got, resources for marketing. And it's going to be a little overwhelming choosing who you go with.
So the real question you should be asking as a new agent is not who's going to give me the best split, not who called me first. It's who's going to make me a high producing agent the fastest. So what are two things that are tangible that made you choose the brokerage that you ended up with?
Yeah, so two of the things, one of them is getting on a team. That was really important for me. I didn't want to feel like a loner agent. Like I was just navigating this unfamiliar world with no guidance, no one supporting me, nobody that I could call. So that was an important thing for me, is the opportunity to get onto a team. And then the second thing is the training, the hands-on training that my brokerage provides. When they say training, when the representatives from the brokerages say we provide training, ask them specifics. Say what kind of training, what does it actually look like? Because sometimes it's just a manual that they provide you, and that is not nearly as helpful as somebody who's walking alongside you. So those were the two things.
Yeah, two things that I would say are important for a new agent. One is actually a little bit unconventional, but it's something that I did when I joined my brokerage, is I asked to speak to somebody on the team, just a regular agent.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know what their experience was. And I wanted a private conversation with them so they could tell me all the good, all the bad, all the ugly. And I wanted a look into what that team actually functioned like. Mm-hmm. And if the brokerage actually lived up to all of these promises that you hear on the front end. One other training piece as well that they included that I really appreciated was we had a training manager inside of Bella Bay that oversaw the first 5 transactions that I did. That means looking over all of the contracts, making sure that everything was done correctly. Mm-hmm. And in the world of real estate, every transaction is different. Every transaction is challenging in a different way, and you're learning different things. And I think it's very important to have somebody to be looking over those contracts and saying, yes, you did this right. This needs to be adjusted, because these contracts can cost you and your client a lot of money, a lot of time if they're not done correctly.
Yeah.
And if you miss one box or miss one line. So
Yep.
I think that is extremely important, is going back to what you said, the quality of the training. Everybody offers training.
Yeah.
You want quality training from your
Yes.
brokerage, especially if you're going to be paying them a lot of money through your splits or paying them through a monthly fee. So here are a couple questions that you should be asking the brokerages that you're interviewing.
One of them is, how do I get my first transaction here? And a red flag is like really vague, ambiguous response of like, oh, well, you just get into your sphere of influence, or, we might hand you a lead here and there. And typically those are undesirable leads. They're leads that the top performing agents don't want to waste their time on. And so they just feed them to the lower level agents or the newer agents. A green flag is like actually a clear path. So some of it, one of them could be lead programs that they have that you can get on that are competitive. But if you're out there to get it done, guys, these can be a really good tool for you to join when you're first starting out and getting a base of clients.
Another question that you should be asking is, who do I go to if something goes wrong? The main thing that you're trying to figure out here is there an actual management structure? Or is it just a loosely pulled together brokerage where there's a broker and a lot of real estate agents that are just out there in the wild, wild west? You want to know that there's actually a support system for if a contract does go awry, or if the other party in the contract is trying to pull something over on your client, who do I call on a Saturday night, because that's when these things happen,
Yep.
on a Saturday night to ask, what do I do in this situation? And that's important to have that structure, because that can make or break your first 2 years, really just from stress. We're not even talking from a financial standpoint, but just from the stress of what happens in real estate.
Another question to ask is, what are the expectations of me as a new agent? And a lot of times this can also be very vague, where they're just eager to get you into the brokerage. And so they'll say anything and also say nothing at all. So it's important for, like, if you're joining a lead program within your brokerage, it's important to know what stats they're looking for you to stay on that lead program. And then if you are like, is there an expectation of certain transactions per year, or is there an expectation of certain amount of transactions per month to be a part of the brokerage, or at least to be essentially worth their time? Because sometimes brokerages will just drop the ball if the agent is not performing well. So that would also be really important to nail down and get a clear answer on.
Okay, so let's talk about the money. We're going to talk about splits. And splits is how much of every single transaction you're paying, what percentage you're paying to the brokerage as a fee to stay within that brokerage. So a lot of brokerages will have common split structures, like 90% you keep, 10% they take. 30% they take, 70% you keep of every transaction of your commission that you bring to the brokerage. So I think an important thing to note is that no matter how high the split is, it doesn't matter if you close 0 deals. So you have to have a path to getting those leads and be able to close those deals in order for the split to even matter. Now, the split still does matter, because when you get further along in your real estate career and you are closing a lot of deals, then that money becomes pretty important, right? You don't want to be paying $20,000 into the brokerage if you don't feel like you're getting that value back out. So speaking of value.
Yeah, so definitely as a new agent, you should be valuing training over splits. So you might be contacted by a brokerage that say, oh, like, we only do a 90-10 split, like, with every transaction. But then you join and they just hang you out to dry. Like, there's no guidance, there's no training, there's nothing. And you feel like you are navigating the real estate world all by yourself. Whereas some brokerages will require a higher split, so more goes to them, but yet they'll provide you training programs that will help you succeed in those first couple years. So it's super important to not let those numbers influence your decision as much.
So next, we're going to go over a couple of red flags and a couple green flags that you should be looking out for when you're in that initial conversation with the brokerage. So a couple red flags that I would look out for in my initial conversation is pressure to sign something immediately with that brokerage.
Yeah.
Pressure of any kind is not necessary in these conversations when you're just exploring options with brokerages, and you should have multiple options lined up to have conversations with multiple brokerages and see what the differences are between them. But if you're feeling that pressure to sign, probably not a good sign. The next one is no clear training plan. If they can't provide you any details about what training is, probably doesn't exist, or
who's in charge of it.
Yeah, somebody should be in charge of the training. I think that's a clear sign that it's probably time to walk away from that brokerage. Tell me some green flags that you look out for.
Yeah, so one of them is a clear onboarding process. So they say, like, once you sign, we'll get you connected with so-and-so who's the training specialist, or the one who does the onboarding, and she will set you up with orientation, and we'll get you going on that and get you part of a lead program, like whatever it may be, that there's a clear path forward to getting engaged with this specific brokerage. Another thing is access to leadership. So you're like, are they assigning you to a team lead right away and providing you their email and their phone number, and they're getting in touch with you, right? If you're not being assigned to anyone and they're not giving you any direction as to who's going to be your team lead or who's going to be your mentor, that is definitely a red flag. I
Mhm.
know we're supposed to be covering green
Yeah.
flags, but that's a red flag.
That's good though.
And then a culture of collaboration. That's also very important, where they're doing business planning together. There's times set up where we all get together and we talk about what has helped us or what has prevented us from succeeding in the real estate industry. I know for our brokerage specifically, there are annual events that they do where it's purely collaboration.
Mhm.
It's not people, telling their success stories and then keeping back how they got there. It's all collaboration so that we can all grow together and succeed together, which I love that. And then another one is measurable expectations. We kind of already covered this, but there's a clear path forward. There's a clear description of what they expect of you in those first couple years. And then that way you can take it into actual consideration and be like, well, is this a brokerage for me? Am I going to be that high performing, or am I going to want to do more than that, or whatever it may be, but that there's clear expectations for that.
Yeah. And going back to the collaboration, I think no amount of money or splits or anything inside the brokerage can compare to having open collaboration.
Yep.
The mentality of a lot of the real estate industry is that these are my secrets, and if I give them out, then I'm boosting my competition, even though it's their colleague in the same brokerage. And really, you want to find a brokerage that has a culture of let's bring everybody up so that we run all the other brokerages out of town, right? But we protect our own and we feed our own, as far as real estate agents inside this brokerage.
Yeah.
And it's can unfortunately be very hard to find a group that's really open with collaboration of like, hey, here's all my secrets. Like, this is what built my business, and I want you to build your business too. But if you do find it, that will make you successful in the industry.
All right, wrapping up, we want to make it clear that your goal as an agent in your first year is not to make the most money, but to become competent, confident, and consistent as a real estate agent. And we also want to provide some action steps for you when you do interview brokerages. Gabe, what are those?
Yeah, so a couple action steps is interview at least 3 brokerages. I think the more that you interview, the better, just so you know what your options are. And then ask the same 5 questions. See what the difference in response is from those brokerages that you interview, and then go from there with your decision. And then the last one is choose based on support, not on hype.
Yep.
A lot of brokerages will try to hype you up. Hey, this is going to be the biggest year of your life. It's your first year in real estate. We're going to take you to the next level. They love those buzzwords.
Yep.
But don't choose a brokerage on all that hype. Choose on what the meat of it is behind the scenes with the training and the support and what they're going to do to get you to that next level, not just tell you that they're going to get you to the next level.
All right, that's a wrap for the first episode of A New Agent Survival Guide. Subscribe so you can catch next month's episode, How to Get Your First Clients.